Now, today's episode is all about a royal fork.
A royal fork.
Cool, everybody. Coach Rab here, and welcome to another Kilted Chess Noob episode. I am not a chess coach, not even close. I'm a health and wellness coach that loves chess. I use this channel to showcase my journey, starting from way down here and hopefully improve my chess game up to being semi-competitive and enjoying it more overall. Now, today's episode is all about a royal fork.
A royal fork.
So for those that are semi-aware of chess tactics, a fork is when one of your pieces attacks two other pieces simultaneously, and often your opponent has to make a choice. If they can't take your piece, they have to make a choice which one do they want to lose. Now, I'll give you an example of that. Now, this is a really dumb example, but I'm just giving you a really straightforward one. So, if we push forward the pawn white, I bring out a knight. They might throw the queen forward. That actually does happen quite a lot of the time. Knight jumps forward, they might create a pawn chain, and then the knight jumps in here, forking both the king and the rook. Now, this is quite a common one. Okay, so it jumps in. Nothing can take that knight at the moment. And this is a forcing fork in the sense that the king is in check, which means not that that rook could move anyway because it's trapped in the corner, but even if it was in the middle of the board, because the king's in check and there's nothing to take the knight, the king would have to move and you would take the rook. So that's quite a common style one. Knights are utilised a lot of the time for forks because they've got that awkward kind of jumping like an L. A lot of people don't see it, so their forking angle kind of spirals out the way, which is just quite nice when you get a good one in there. So that is your sort of standard fork. You can fork with any piece. I was thinking about this on my dog walk this morning. I was thinking, usually say not the king, but actually if the king got round the back of a pawn chain, it could come around the back of two pawns and fork them as well. So yeah, typically speaking, every piece can fork. The most common ones are things like bishops. Queens can fork quite commonly as well. All the pieces can, but the common ones you tend to find are with knights, bishops, rooks, that kind of thing. But a royal fork is when you get the king and queen together. Now, I didn't know this was a thing until literally 2 or 3 days earlier. So I was watching this video. There's a guy that I follow on Instagram initially called Chess with Akeem. Now, I definitely recommend go and check him out. I'll put his Instagram link and I'll also put a link to the YouTube video I'm talking about in the description. Now, Chess with Akeem, he is a chess coach and I think he's a master of some. He's very good. He's got a very calm way about him. He's a very genuine person, or certainly comes across that way. He shows his mistakes and his losing games as well as his winning games. And I love his Instagram stuff because they're like 60 to 90-second clips. And he just very calmly talks you through it as he's playing his moves. You're like, oh, right, you understand why he's doing what he's doing. He's very, very knowledgeable. So it's definitely worth a watch for just little reels on Instagram. I went onto YouTube and I was thinking, oh, I don't think I follow him on YouTube. So I went onto YouTube and lo and behold, here's this video. I think I've shared the right video. It's like how to punish the fried liver attack. Anyway, I was watching that, with my cup of coffee one day, and he was talking about bish bash bosh, how to deal with something, and then he said, and a royal fork, and I just didn't realize it was a thing, and I thought, ooh. And I tell you what, if you get caught with a royal fork, it's a royal fork up, because you'd be so annoyed, because you have to move your king, and then they gobble your queen. And lo and behold, a day or two later, managed to get one. Now, it is against a player who's much less rated than I am. This particular player is quite a gung-ho kind of individual. Every time I've played them a couple of times now, and they very much just go for it. They play fairly decent moves, but every now and again they just go for it. So it's like, oh, it's a very aggressive player, which is actually quite good to practice against because higher level players I've noticed develop everything first, which gives me time to develop. Kind of like if you ever played strategy games, I'm more of the turtle defense. You sorted out your base first before you went on the attack. Whereas some other players are very aggressive and they just go out and you're too busy reacting to actually get your own stuff done, and your whole defense is a mess. So it was actually one of the methods I used against my dad in the early days. So even just earlier this year, last year, because my dad's a very, very good chess player. And I was like, how am I going to beat him? So I thought, right, I'm just not going to give him a chance to think. So I just kept pushing. So he was then dancing to my tune rather than me dancing to his, and I got a few victories that way. So I was like, live amongst the chaos, shall they say. But regardless, into this video here, I want to showcase the Royal Fort. Now remember, I don't celebrate victories on this channel because I don't think that's very good etiquette. However, I celebrate cool moves, right? The Royal Fort was epic. So a little story behind this. Playing this person before, again, they are a much lower level than I am, so, you know, I can't show off too much, but I just love the fact I got it. I was like, yes. The cool thing about it was I nearly got it with one night. And I was saying to my girlfriend, I was like, oh, I might be able to get this. And then my opponent, did something protected. I was like, ah, well. And then I realized, oh, wait, I have 2 nights. And it was like, oh, I couldn't believe it played out. It made my day. So anyway, I'm going to take you through it. I was playing with the black pieces. Of course, meant they were playing with the white. So they opened up with their knight, went galloping into battle with Sir Lancelot. Normally, I play my Carol Can. I'm a creature of habit, which is normally pushing the C pawn. But because he hadn't pressured the middle or attacked the middle at all, I'm able to jump all the way forward, which would then allow me to completely capture the middle on the next move. That was my thinking behind it, because I can jump all the way forward rather than going one and then playing that one here. Ooh. I was able to just capture the middle and then set up my Carol Can defenses as such. He pushed forward and I jumped. So I basically gave myself a little bit tempo, because anybody knows the Carol Can. You push the C pawn, then you push the D pawn, and then you typically bring, depending on what that person does, you either it's exchange Carol if it's taken, or you go straight into the advanced Carol. So anyway, push that pawn forward, which is all normal Carol Can opening stuff. He brought his knight out to defend. I brought my knight out there as well. I mean, technically, I might have taken here, because depending on the move order, he might have taken, depending on the move order, if I'd taken here, he might have jumped in, I would pull the knight out, he would take my knight, and I would take his knight. And that is another version of the, oh, is it the 2 knights? No, it's a part of the exchange. It's a line that I've played before. So, but as such, didn't play out that way. He created a nice pawn chain, protected, and obviously got eyes on the spawn. I pinned his bishop to the queen. It's a pin because if he moves, if he moves his knight, I'm then going to bingo his queen. And when he does move his knight, it's not like that's put me in any immediate danger. Not going into check or anything. I would bingo his queen and then probably ruin his day. So as such, I pinned his knight. He put my bishop under pressure. Now on this particular line of the Carol Can, I don't mind sacking said bishop. It was out there to do a job. It's done its job. It forces him to retake, and then I build a nice pawn chain in the centre here. I think it's because I was going off the idea of the 2 knights Carol Can, which that basically was. And it's similar to another one, which I think is the exchange Carol. But anyway, it's the 2 knights Carol Can, so that's basically what I did there. He took my pawn, which I wasn't concerned about. I brought my knight out, which is part of the Carol Can anyway, and I know that I've got eyes on this pawn. He attacks my centre, I gobble the pawn, he gobbles that in the middle. I took with the knight, and I've now got the double hooks coming in here. I'm not quite sure. That was a bit of a funny move from him. I genuinely thought he was going to take with the knight. And at that point, I was thinking to myself, do I recapture with the queen and then do a queen trade early? You know, they're basically sacking the house in the first 10 moves or something. But as such, I don't think he liked the look of that, so he moved his knight. At that point, I thought to myself, let's not get silly here, because this particular player can sometimes go galloping into battle. And I thought what he was going to potentially do was jump in here, which is a fork with my king and rook, and I would have just taken with the queen. But again, I've played this person before, and they sometimes throw me off by doing wild stuff, so I thought, just play it safe, castle. Game review didn't like that, but well, this is my game review. You play your own game. So anyway, got myself. So as far as I'm concerned, I have finished my development now. I'm happy. I'm like, right, now it's time to go on and attack. Some of the advice I've been learning recently is that you really shouldn't go on attack until you finish your development. And this back line that I've got here with, you know, the queen and the rooks. I mean, technically I should develop the queen, but regardless, the rooks and queen and are all working together in that fantastic trio. So I'm in a good position from that position. Papers to pawn, that was a strange move. I'm not sure what he was planning. I don't know whether I'm not sure, to be honest. Was he planning to bring something in? Not sure what he was planning, that one. So I chased away his knight. He galloped back up to safety. And then I started the potential attack. So I brought the knight across. I wasn't worried about his queen bingo in that knight because it was protected twice. So I was like, right, that's okay. The idea was to get the original forks. And in the past, I've been quite... If I had done this move in the past, if I'd done this move in the past, I would have went straight for his rook. Because I'd be like, I'd get so excited and just go for it. But what I've started to do now is just look, is there a better option? So when I was into this position, the queen had eyes on the D channel, which meant that if I was to put him in a fork there, so that's the check fork, there's nothing to take that knight, so he has to move his king. King can only move one square, and it can't move here because of the queen. So that's when I was thinking, oh, well, if he moves there... I had to watch, because you've got to be very careful you don't play what's known as hope chess, that you hope the player's going to move there and you're going to get it. But part of me was thinking, well, it's a Saturday afternoon, why not, right? Because then I thought, great, bingo, that would have been the royal fork, the king would have had to move somewhere, and then I would have bingoed said queen, right? And I would have been, that would have been better, because I would have been check again, but regardless. That was the plan. It was to set it up with the first fork, and then... get the queen fork right after. So I was saying, when I looked at that, I was like, oh, that's possible, right? And I was thinking, well, what's he going to do? He had two main moves. I genuinely thought he was going to push this pawn here. I honestly thought he was going to do it. So I was keeping an eye on the move thing. I was like, and I said to my girlfriend, if that says A3, I'm in business. But as such, he played the move, the queen in. Now, at the time, it says that's an inaccuracy, because it says you're now going to be able to win material through a fork. His queen's moved, and it was protecting that square, right? I think he didn't like the idea of coming all the way back, because then I could potentially take his queen. So I don't think he liked that. And I know you'd recapture with the knight, but regardless, I don't think he was very keen, because if you recapture with the knight, then he's then going to go to Forktown regardless. So he moved it there, and it meant that little plan was off the table. And then I looked and I thought, but wait, there is two knights. Sir Lancelot has a brother. And Sir Lancelot went galloping into battle. Now, the reason this was quite important was when I jumped this knight into d4, it's putting pressure on his queen. If he doesn't move his queen, he's going to lose it. And there's nothing that can directly attack that knight at the moment either. If he was to move his queen here, I end up getting the queen fork, okay? If he moves his queen down the way, he's then basically going to get himself in eyes on my bishop. So if I jumped back up here with the fork, the queen would move, and then I would bingo him again. So you've got to remember, this would be called a sort of revealed attack, I think they call it. So if he moved his queen here, for example, I would put him in check there. He would have to move his king, and I would get him anyway, you see. Or alternatively, when I'm there, he moves his king, I could potentially do this. So I've got a couple of ways to get him, basically. So he obviously didn't like the look of that. So he moved his queen across. And when that happened, I was like, it was on. It was on. I galloped in with Sir Lancelot 2. There is the royal fork.
A royal fork.
So he's in check, and his queen's in problem, and nobody can touch that knight. And of course, he had no choice. Move his king. I bingoed across, he retook. Now, from that point onwards, I was high as a kite, right? I was like, I cannot believe I got that move. It was one of those moves, I was like, get in. I then jumped in with the knight, putting pressure on his rook, and I kind of was hoping he was going to move his rook here, which he did, which allowed me to jump back into a check. And then from there, moving, I was then going to get the discovered check. So what's happened now is he's moved into safety. My queen is on the same line as his king. From that position there, where's he couldn't go here, and if he'd gone there, he would have got the discovered check anyway. So my battle plan was to jump into here with the knight. His king is going to have to move somehow, And then I was going to try and get across here. Now, could he have moved back? Would that have worked? Would that have still worked? No, because if he'd moved back the way, that's right. I remember at the time analysing that, I would have then got him on a bishop fork as well. So I think I was gunning for his bishop and then hoping I'd maybe get the rook. Trying not to play hope chess. As it turns out, he put himself on the same line as my queen, so I jumped across. He is now in check, so he has to move or block the check. So he moved up the way, and I thought, you know what, I'll just gobble said knight. He took with the bishop, and then I just started to develop the final pieces. Nothing too fancy here. With this one here, I was offering a trade. And why was it? Oh, it was the revealed check. That's what it was. I got him into another revealed check. That's what I did. He blocked with his knight, which he's now pinned on the knight. I brought the queen up here and took that pawn. Now, what I next did was use a tactic called pinning. So I then was pinning a couple pieces at once. He moved his rook, so I took said rook with the bishop. He brought his other bishop back. I pulled the queen up. Now, what I've done now with this queen has pinned that bishop to the king. The reason for it, that bishop can no longer move because it puts him in check. So he was pinned from there. He threw his other bishop out. I think if I remember right, I pinned his other knight. Yep, so I've now pinned that knight as well. Now, that is important because my next move is I was planning to take this bishop. But if I'd done that previously, his knight would have just recaptured. But now that I've pinned that knight to the king, it allows me to take. Now, he then started to put my rook in danger. I wasn't concerned because remember that checks supersede other opponents' moves. So I was like, well, yes, my rook's in danger, but I don't need to worry right now because I'm going to now put him in check. He has to respond to my check. So he then moves. I brought my bishop into play, puts him in check again. So again, he has to move. Put him in check again, he has to move. And then this move, I decided to sack the rook because he has to take with the pawn. Or if he doesn't take with the pawn, then I'm going to get checkmate on the next move regardless. He takes with the pawn. I gobbled that up. He pulls across. Checkmate. So that. The game was the game, but that royal fork was delicious. Oh. Now, when you learn about these moves, and that's what I'm saying, it was so weird. It was like the Grand Theft Auto rule. Like, if anybody ever played the old Grand Theft Auto, there'd be a particular car you wanted, right? You'd be driving around, you're trying to find it to steal it. Don't do that in real life, people. And then when you finally had that car, you'd see that car everywhere. Well, I'd never heard of the Royal Fork, and then all of a sudden it appears in my game a day or two after I'd watched or learned about it. I was like, wow. So that's one of those cool tactics in chess. There's a lot of them out there, and when they come across on the board, like, oh. So we know on this channel that I love smothered mates. I've still not got my Legals mate, but I will. One day I will. And Royal Fork is now in the bag. I wish chess.com did an award for that because that would be quite cool. So feeling really good. So hope that was a bit enlightening for you. Again, if you have never played chess, give it a go. Just pick it up, start, and just leave the ego at the door. That would be my advice. Leave the ego at the door and just enjoy it. It's just a game. I know that losing can suck and it can kind of feel like a battle of the mind, but remember that the people that are likely beating you in games have played a lot of chess for a long time. Or you're beating yourself by making boo-boos, and that's okay. Just learn from them. And those mistakes tend to hurt the most, to be fair. But once you get into it and you get playing more and more games, I've certainly noticed my game has vastly improved, and I'm making less mistakes. There still is some things I need to fine-tune, but you just keep playing, keep practicing, and it'll all come. So hope that was helpful. Again, the Chess with Akeem, I put the links to his YouTube or will put the links to the YouTube and his Instagram in the comments. Definitely check him out. He's got a very nice nature about him. Very good way of, explaining things. He doesn't seem very egotistical. I've watched his videos when he makes a boo-boo and he's like, oh. And he just owns it. So I'm like, fair play. So I quite like that about him. And it's very educational. They're very nice videos to watch. His Instagrams, he does like short reels, which are pretty cool. And his YouTube stuff, like I said, I've only watched one or two of his YouTube stuff, but it's of the same quality, which is really, really good. So definitely go check him out. Hope you enjoyed this one, everybody. So thank you as always. Please like, comment, subscribe, the usual jazz. Have an awesome week ahead.